So welcome to Avoid Messing Up Your First Associate Job. Thank you for joining me on Zoom if you're watching in live and on Dental Nachos Live. You may be watching in on demand. And if you're watching in 2 or 3 years later, some of our special offers may not be valid, but we are here to have fun and help you not foul up. What'd you think I was going to say? Your first, your second, your third, your fourth, or fifth associate job. Learn a little bit about the circle of dentistry life. We have an amazing group of panelists here with us today. Before we get started, I want to share some fun. We have an Amazon gift card giveaway. Studies show dentists love free stuff. So if you would like to win, you do not have to be a dentist. You could be a hygienist, a dentist, a dental assistant, dental student, anyone connected to dentistry. Just text WIN to 215-798-9897. We also have an amazing sponsor, Fabletics, that gives away 100 pairs of scrubs. We've seen these online through our Dental Nachos community. So if you want to enter our next scrub giveaway, just text FAB to 215-798-9897. And last night, while I was on the treadmill, I got this message that is so appropriate to start this show with. A super nice dentist in the Dental Nachos group made a super big mistake that's going to cost him time. It's going to cost him money. It's going to cost him morale. If you want to avoid making this mistake, text WTF, why these fail, to 215-798-9897 to get a list of resources to help you prevent burning your nachos in making big decisions. But what happened to this dentist? These are real DMs from my phone. He said he did not hire a dental-focused attorney before he signed the contract. Let that sink in. Look over here to the right. Bad decision on my part and painful learning lesson. I had to say, how many times did you hear me post or say, do not sign a contract without hiring a dental-focused attorney? He said probably a million. And in all seriousness, this is going to cause him a big problem because he bought a house he cannot move, and he signed a restrictive covenant that was 15 miles for 3 years, which is way too broad for the area that he's in. So ounce of prevention better than that pound of cure. Text BURN to 215-798-9897 to get a list of advisors, including a dental-focused attorney, to make sure you do not make these mistakes. And just in case you need it on video, let's listen to this. Before signing an associate contract, what should dentists do?
Hire an attorney.
Really good advice. For more advice like this, text SURVIVE to 215-543-6454. So my question for you before we get started and see our panelists is, do you like scary stories better than successful stories? Which do you like better? I know you like both. So stories are the star in life. And a scary story is there is a 2022 AEGD grad who moved to the middle of the country for an associate position and is stuck in the middle of the country, signed a lease, moved there, and the office does not have enough patients for her. And when I said to her, oh, how did this happen? You must have gone there and rented an Airbnb and observed in the dental office for a day so you could see the patient flow and the dynamic and the culture. And she said, Dr. Nacho, I did not do that. And I said, why did you not do that? So to avoid a scary story, one of the must-dos is to observe at the dental practice, not clinical working interviews. Observe at the dental practice for at least a day before you accept a job, and have a dental focused attorney review your contract. A successful story, and you're going to meet this panelist later tonight, someone who has applied to 40 jobs before he accepted his job, actually here in Philadelphia. I hope I had something to do with that. So more options, the better. Somebody who found a fit where he can place implants and use the skills that he learned in his AGD. So make sure you hire a dental focus attorney. Make sure you observe at the office before you accept an associate job. And just to give you some value before we get the team up here for the panelists, this is the team that you will need to succeed. If you're a D1, take a picture of this slide. If you're a D4, if you're about to buy a practice or find a job, you want to put together your team. Dr. Mark Costas, my good friend, founder of the Dental Success Network, sponsor of my group, calls it his board of his advisors. A dental-focused attorney, a dental-focused accountant, financial coach. You're going to need a bank. You're going to need someone who helps you with people. You're going to need an insurance expert. You're going to need other people on your team. So take a picture of this slide and start developing this team to help you with the 4 biggest decisions all dentists will make: finding their first job, buying their first practice, hiring their first associate, and selling that only practice. You're going to beat people tonight who have done these things. If you want a list of these advisors, text Burn to 215-798-9897. So before we're going to bring our next panelist up in 1 second here. Good. These are the panelists that you're going to meet tonight. You're going to meet Dr. Parth Patel, Dr. Christian Mullen, Dr. Eric Roman, Dr. Lauren Gannetti, and Karen Riley. You are here in this Zoom room, so please, ATQ, ask the question. You are the most important person here, so if something is on your mind, please ask that question. I'll be asking our panelists, what is your role in the dentistry world? What was your first job on earth prior to going into dentistry? What are some tips you would give associates to avoid messing up their first, second, third, fourth, fifth job? And this is so key. And I just gave a series of lectures in Colorado, and it was an awesome event, 22,000 dentists and people there. And I said, when you walk around that convention floor, when you go to conferences, when you go to a networking event, go up to people that you admire and say this, then what do you wish you did sooner in your career to increase success, decrease stress, and most of all, reduce the number of times you feel like crying inside a day? So with that, I want to invite Dr. Lauren to our show. Dr. Lauren Gannetti, a practice owner and prosthodontist. She went to school and she said, knowing just a little bit about occlusion was not good enough for her. She had to be able to get tertiary anatomy on every single one of her composites. So Dr. Lauren, thanks so much for joining us. Start us off with, what is your role in the dentistry world? Give us a minute or two of your story.
Oh, thank you, Paul. Well, thank you guys so much for having me. I am so excited. It was through an avenue of connections that Dr. Goodman and I got.
May Lynn, shout out to May Lynn. She might be here. So
Hey,
May
May
Lynn is,
Lynn.
yeah.
I was teaching over at Temple and she put us in touch with each other. So that's another thing. The dental world is extremely small. So stay positive, put yourself out there and just understand that down the line, there could be people that you come across that will remember you from dental school. I mean, I moved to central Pennsylvania and I kid you not, there's about 5 or 6 of my classmates all in this town. So it's great to know people and network, and your network is your net worth. So
I love it, Lauren. And before I want to say, I always say, have friends in your phone. Tell us about your text group that you rely on. Tell these young dentists, medium-aged dentists, why you need friends in your phone to be able to laugh with, learn with, sometimes cry with, figure out problems with. Tell us about your group.
Oh my gosh, where to even start? I have so many. One of them is to have your connection in the area. So I'm a prosthodontist, so I have a lot of referral sources, but mostly it is groups of friends and people that you meet after all this time. Like I had said, go to your dental society meetings wherever you go, and get your name out there and get your face out there. And it's going to be intimidating. Trust me, especially if you're moving to a new city. You don't know anyone there and you have to figure it out and you have to put yourself out there and you have to practice, get comfortable being uncomfortable.
I love that. I want to share two of my favorite dentists who've come to Boost Camp, Super Dentist Boost Camp, my team can share that. The way they found their 7-figure practices by sitting next to an older dentist at a CE course. It wasn't Indeed. It wasn't a broker. It was literally just sitting next to, having fettuccine Alfredo for lunch. I don't know why they always serve that for Saturday lunch meals. That's not everyone's normal Saturday lunch meal, but having some fettuccine Alfredo for lunch. So tell me this, before we get into dental jobs, what was your first job on earth? I was a busboy at a truck stop diner. What was your first job on earth?
My first paycheck job was on the phone at a optometry office. It was my sister as an associate there, and I was making calls to patients for recalls. They needed somebody just in a part-time position. It was during college, and I was able to make it work in my class schedule. And it was on the phone, talking with patients, getting them scheduled, figuring out the office dynamic and how that works. And honestly, it's really helped grow my, talking on the phone and speaking with patients, hearing what their hot topics are, what the concerns are, seeing the dynamics with the team and the doctors. It was a great first experience into the career world.
Great training. I always say that people say it's really important to get people skills. It's really important to get people skills, but there's no people skills university. That's life. So when you have jobs like that, you had to kindly annoy people to come back and see that optometrist. So great training for dentistry. So now, in the associate world, tell us a little bit about your associate journey, good, bad, ugly, and what would you say are a couple tips people listening, people watching, associate should do to avoid messing up their associate job?
Those are great questions. The first thing is to live like a resident after dental school or residency. And that's really tough because think about it. You've been in school for 8, 11 years, some of us, and you have seen all your friends on Facebook get married, have kids, buy the house, get the new car because they've been working in, corporate world, or they've been able to do that while we've been in school. So it's really tempting. The minute you get out, you go, hey, listen, I got some alphabet soup after my name. I'm a doctor. I deserve this, right? I deserve that new house. I deserve that new car. And it's going to be tempting, but just hold off. Live like a resident, live as you are as a student, as long as you can. I'm talking like 5 years if you can. And if you live like no one now, you live like no one later.
Great
So
advice.
what is that? If that's not even just having your savings, but think about it. It can affect different avenues of your life. If you decide that you want to buy a house, you buy that house, but then what if your job doesn't work out, or you don't like the area, or you have this mortgage payment and so you can't, go for that opportunity to buy that practice, or go find another place that you want to work that might be a little less pay, but it's going to be better for you in the long run. So having a humble beginning will give you more opportunities to be flexible.
Love that advice. I mean, also, I say it's very risky to buy a house before a dental practice because it's easy to buy a house. It's hard to find a dental practice. And as a dental practice broker, I've been on the phone with people saying, hey, I got this great practice 75 minutes away. And they say, I can't move there because I bought a house. But if they'd been renting an apartment, they would be geographically flexible. And buying that dental practice or starting one is one of the biggest decisions of your career. So great advice there. How about your journey? Anything, when people say learn from the mistakes of others, or even learn from, what someone has done, anything on your associate journey that you'd like to share with our group?
Yeah, and it was actually something that was really eye-opening and took a lot to learn, just because to get through school, think about every exam you've had to study for, everything you've had to do for yourself. Nobody studied for those exams. Nobody applied to those schools. Nobody decided that you were going to be a dentist and did it for you. So we've had this very focused, individualistic mentality that you had to do to get yourself to where you are now. And when you get out in the real world, you have to take that mindset and flip it on its head,
Yeah.
because now you're working in a team, and that is a whole different dynamic. And it's learning how to be vulnerable, and it's really scary. And you feel, okay, I'm coming out of school. I don't know anything.
Yeah.
Think about it. The assistants know more dentistry than you do. So
Right.
to be vulnerable is scary, but they respect you more when you go up to them and say, hey, I haven't really done this here yet, or I haven't done this. Can you help me step through it? I promise you, they're not going to look down at you. They're going to respect you more for it, because they know you're young. They know you're coming right out of school. And if you come off being like, oh, I know everything, I
Yeah.
got this, even though inside you're like, oh my God,
Yeah.
it doesn't come off well.
I love that advice. I mean, I always say, ask people to be your expert. And it could be simple. I say to new associates, the first thing that you should do when you walk in and start a job is say to the team, where's a really good place to get lunch around here? Because they can't get the question wrong. You become open and you say, oh, we have this great pizza place. And it's just ask people to be an expert, your expert. And same thing, how do you guys set up for this here? I've never done a crown here before. Show me. And Eric was saying in the chat, your humble beginnings part was just really great advice, because some of his classmates were trying to buy BMWs their third year. And I think now, last question for you is, I always say, what do you wish someone told you sooner? Or what do you wish you did sooner? Anything come to mind personally, professionally, financially, CE wise, that you just say, hey, I wish someone had crossed paths with me and told me this sooner?
The one thing that sticks in my mind, and I think about it almost daily, it was an article I read, and it was about an Olympic sport. I think it was a gymnast, and she was getting ready for the Rio Olympics, and it was the last practice before she flew out, and it was a horrible practice. And she was just so discouraged. She's like, oh my God, I've worked my whole life for this and all this and all that. It was terrible. And her coach said, good. And she's like, what do you mean good? He's like, good. And it's the rule of thirds. Everybody thinks that everything is 100% supposed to be great all the time. You're supposed to
Yeah.
be happy. Your life is supposed to be put together, and you're supposed to always be good. But honestly, that's not healthy, and that's not
Yeah.
realistic. So getting that in your mindset and realizing a third of the time, that's good. But a third of the time, if it's bad, that's also good because
Yeah.
that means that you're pushing yourself out of your comfort zone, that you're doing things that you're learning as a human being, which we all do until the day we die. And then also another third is that things are just okay. Not
Right.
everything has to be good, not everything has to be bad, but you have that in between, and that's just life. So keeping that in mind on those bad days, realizing this too shall pass, and the good times, this too shall pass as well.
I think that's amazing advice, especially for dentistry, because it is an emotional roller coaster. You're not allowed to get off, and you have to keep things in perspective. The highs can be high. You're changing people's lives with their smile. The lows can be low when you get a text message saying, "Hey, I'm quitting this job and I'm not coming back," and you just have to be able to deal with it. One of the things I'll share is I wish I had paid attention to my numbers sooner in my practice. I did a lot with people training, a lot with people coaching, but I worked with my dad, and they took dental insurance plans that I wish I had analyzed sooner in my career. They'd taken them out of sort of this, hey, we always took this plan, we always took the teacher plan. I wish I had someone like the Mark Costas Dental Success Network to help me sooner. So now these dentists out there have so many coaches that can help you with numbers, can help you with people. So don't be afraid to get help. Well, Lauren, amazing share with us. People can text Lauren to 215-798-9897. Is it okay people connect with you to ask you a question about being a prosthodontist, centric relation? Just kidding. That's made up, right? So that's made up. There's no such thing as it. But is it okay if people connect with you? Is there anything you could share for the video here? How people could follow you on Instagram, reach out to you online, email? What would be the
Absolutely.
best way?
Yeah, please text, email. You can get that through there. I teach, so I have students texting me all the time, just asking questions or advice on starting ownership or to finding a job or just, hey, this patient said this today. What do I do? So I am an open book. I am a text or email away, and I check them frequently. So please reach out. And if you're in Central Pennsylvania and you want to come visit the office, we always love having students and residents as well.
Awesome. I love that. And dentists are not particularly good at taking compliments, but I want to share that I start my lectures by telling the audience that I get a lot of parenting advice from TikTok because I was listening to a video with dad saying, we should change how we talk to our children instead of saying, I'm so proud of you. I'm so proud of you for getting good grades, getting in dental school. It creates a weird dynamic of our children always needing to please us. And I never thought of it that way. And he said, instead, we should say to our children, our team, people around us, you should be so proud of yourself. So you should be so proud of yourself, Lauren, for all the things that you've done. Practice ownership is not easy. Putting yourself out there is not easy. And we really appreciate you being on with us.
I appreciate it too. Thank you guys for the opportunity.
Awesome. So Lauren will be in the chat for a little bit if you have any questions that you want to ask her. And we have another panelist coming to the stage, one of my favorite new dentists out there, Dr. Parth Patel. Dr. Parth, tell us a little bit about your story, your role in the dental world. You are still in the 0 to 2 years out of school, technically a baby age dentist, said in the most affectionate way. I classify dentists like periodontal disease. So tell us a little bit about your story.
Yeah, so I think I'm probably the newest in the group, but I graduated from Case Western in 2022, and then I did an AGD at Idaho State, just a super rural town, really small town, Idaho, for a year, and just started my associateship in August in Philadelphia.
I love sharing that. Now we're going to deep dive into your story, but just tell us, and we've talked about this before, what was the value of doing an AEGD? Why would you do it again? Why were you not like, oh, I just want to, there's no judgment, just an observation, but sometimes dentists say, I want to get into practice, make money, be in the real world, but you paused and did extra training. Tell us about that training and why you were glad you did it.
Yeah, I think it just kind of set me forward probably like 3 to 5 years ahead of new graduates, and just in terms of procedures. So I think Case Western did an excellent job in restorative dentistry, but we didn't do any implants. I think I did like 2 single canal root canals. Like I wasn't ready to do any of that stuff. I think I only did simple extractions in dental school. So I just felt really limited when I came out. I was just like, how am I going to earn a living by just doing fillings and crowns all day? I'm sure I could, but the grind is a little bit tougher. And so I kind of started looking into CE and just thought this is probably going to take me at least 3 years to get where I want. So that's why I decided to take that year just to learn. So, I mean, that residency was great because we did a ton of molar endo. We placed about 40 implants in the year. So that
That's
was great
amazing.
experience. Yeah. Got my sedation license. So I can do IV sedation now. Did a full mouth rehab, which I'm not comfortable doing yet in private practice, but at least got the experience
Yeah.
of it. So, I think it definitely, in terms of CE and stuff, it would have taken me at least 3 to 5 years to get there.
And also just to share, the way we charge for things in dentistry, how I describe it? Wild and totally insane. Because let's say let's say you go in tomorrow and it's 9 a.m. Parth, and I'm going to pay you, I'm your boss. I'm going to pay you $100 no matter what, either procedure, right? I'm going to pay you $100. You could do a class 2 composite on number 18, or you can place an implant on number 30. Which one are you picking?
The implant. I mean, even if the money was the same, I'd probably
Right.
stress less with an implant than I would
Yeah.
on like an MOD for a tooth, which it
So
sounds crazy, but it's not.
a class 2 composite it's a great argument. It's technically more difficult than a more straightforward implant.
I'd say
So
so, yeah.
yeah, so I mean, it's just to show our audience that what we learn in dental school about quote unquote bread and butter, I call it kale and quinoa because no one eats bread and butter anymore. It's just awesome when you can learn these skills. Now tell us about, because you're so new, tell us about, not messing up your associate job decision, right? Tell us what you did. I'm so proud to have helped you at Dentist Job Connect, but it's your time. Kind of tell us, what were you thinking? When did you start applying, and what would you recommend for our audience?
So I mean, you mentioned it earlier, but I ended up interviewing for like 40 offices. So
That's
those were
awesome.
phone interviews, and I probably visited about 6 to 8. But I think early on when I was looking, I did this residency, I did all these procedures. What I found was that I talked to a lot of people that were like, "Oh, we'll start you out with the restorative stuff, and then we'll maybe mix an implant 6 to 8 months later." And first of all, I just kind of wanted to jump right into it because I took the year to learn all that stuff. So I think early on, probably the first 20, it was just like, man, no one's letting me place implants. No one wants me to do molar endo. People were terrified that after a year, I was going to come and do sedation for them. So I think that's when I chatted with you, and you just said, you know what, just go apply to like 15 jobs tonight. That's like the only goal. And you were like, there's nothing more to it, but send your resume to 15 more tonight and just see what happens. And we kind of talked about just bigger cities, because I think my main thing was, let's just make sure there's a big airport nearby so I can visit friends and family. That was like the one thing I wanted. So I applied all across the country to like 15 more at the time. I interviewed for all of them, and all of a sudden there was all these options on the table for me.
Yeah.
So I think early on I was really location driven. And the one thing you said was just go apply to 15 jobs all across the country. Obviously apply to places you would want to live, but open it up to like more than what you're doing now. And I must have interviewed at all 15 of those spots, and all of a sudden it was like, oh my God, I don't know. I have no idea which one to pick.
Yeah.
So
you had too many good choices. And I want to interject because you did such a great job. First of all, it's just great to talk to other dentists, whether you want to work for them or not. You learn something from them, right? What did you learn from these phone calls, FaceTimes, and more importantly, the office visits? Like, you're sheltered in dental school and residency. Now you're literally standing next to these dentists in their practice. These are golden opportunities to learn whether you accept the job or not. Tell us a little bit about what you learned on those office visits.
yeah, I think I just realized that even if the procedures are the same or it's what you want, every single office you'll visit is completely different, from the office culture to insurance versus fee for service versus how many implants versus how much restorative, all that stuff they expect you to do. There was not a single office that really was the exact same. So I think that was really eye-opening to see, like, hey, like maybe I'll make less money here, but I can learn a little bit more.
Yeah.
This office is asking me to work more hours versus this one. This office on paper is perfect, but actually I hate the entire staff. I can't get along with them. So that happened at one, which they weren't bad people or anything, but I was like, I just can't work with these people all year. So I think I realized that you could look at the spreadsheets and the production numbers and what procedures they're doing, but that's just one little thing. There's too many things to think about. So kind of seeing it in
And
person.
you need to see them in game, right? Sitting
Yeah.
across from that coffee shop, you need to see them in game. If I use the dating example, people could be super nice getting, a fancy drink at a bar for happy hour, but watch them, doing their laundry on Thursday night, trying to balance a bunch of things. That's what, and I using that from a book, they say that's what real dating should be like, right? And that's why you want to see it in game. I didn't ask you, what was your first job on earth prior to dentistry? What'd you do? What was your first job? Lauren was an optometrist, front desk team member.
Yeah, not as cool as her. I was a dishwasher in high school.
Well, you still had to learn to work as part of a team. So now just tell our audiences, so you apply to these jobs, you go on these office visits. How did you select the job? And now how has your first 6 months in this job been?
So I think this one, for me, going to rural Idaho, I hadn't seen any friends or family for a year. That was really tough. I missed some weddings, some birthdays. So my first thing was like, all right, let's pick a city where I can directly fly. and make sure we don't miss any of that stuff for the next few years. So Philadelphia really hit the bill for that. And then this job specifically, I think there was a lot of opportunity in terms of, at first I thought, the word DSO kind of scared me. But then once I started interviewing with these guys, I was like, this is the perfect fit because they have about 35 locations in Philadelphia.
Yeah.
So one thing is I have a main office, but I travel a lot to office to place implants, which is kind of my big thing. Like I just want as much surgery opportunity as possible. So
and you have the other dentist there, you told me, which is totally normal. They're even referring you implants because
so
that's not something they learned in school.
Yeah, two of the main offices I work at, I'm one of 4 dentists at both of them, but no one places implants out of any of us except for me. So internal referrals is huge for us. So, and a lot of our patients, even at the offices I'm at, will travel from the other offices just to see me for implant stuff. So I think in terms of me getting the opportunity, it was huge. And then just mentorship, that was a big one. I kind of told everyone that I interviewed with, like, I don't think I need you in the operatory per se, like holding my hand, but after hours, it'd be nice to review some CBCTs and look at some of this stuff and, just treatment plan together. And I really, with this job specifically, I really got that.
And that's why I talk about mentorship, money, and morale. The balance has to be all. You have to want to walk into the job. Doesn't matter how much money you make. If you don't want to walk in and the morale's not good, that's not going to be acceptable. What does the mentorship look like? But mentorship can be through Zoom. So as we wrap up, Parth, instead of maybe asking you what you wish you did sooner, I want to compliment you, and I'm allowed to compliment whoever I want on this show and make you feel embarrassed. That's okay. Whenever I have something, you always show up. So I remember distinctly, I had Dr. Mark Costas come to Philadelphia, and I said it was free to come, right? I put one of the, the most amazing dentists on stage. It was free to come. And you made the time to come after work and sit there. And I'm sure you were tired. I'm sure you're busy. And a lot of new dentists didn't. A lot of new dentists and dental students didn't show up, didn't make the time. I mean, I brought this person literally into our backyard. So it's not that I'm angry that the other dentists didn't show up. I'm just asking you, would you tell some of these young dentists, show up at these places, put your face in these places? You came to that event probably tired, but what do you get out of constantly showing up?
I mean, you kind of hit it. Like, you always meet people at these events, which is crazy, but like, I think at that one, I don't know if it was that event or another Nachos event, but I've been trying to figure out a new surgical guide system. And I talked to Dr. Limbarakis there. And he kind of got me into like his surgical guide system. So even just like, I wasn't there to learn anything surgery wise, but just the person next to me drinking a cocktail with them, it's like, oh, I'm using the system. That's the system I use now, the same lab, everything.
And that's what Mark would love that, because he always says most of the learning happens at the cocktail hours or the coffee times, not just on stage. And I just, get complimented because it also makes you feel less alone. Lauren shared she has this text group. You got to feel less alone. Dentistry is an incredibly lonely profession, even though you're surrounded by people. And until you are in the real world of dentistry, that doesn't resonate. Because in dental school, you're with 150 other people going through the same misery. So you may be miserable, you may be stressed, but you're not alone. And I just, want to inspire dentists to be like Parth. Show up when you're tired, and you're just like going to the gym. You're always glad that you did when it's over. Yeah. Would you agree with that?
100%. I would agree.
Awesome. Well, people can text Eagles to 215-798-9897 to connect with the Dudak group on Job Connect. But if they want to follow you on Instagram, Parth, or reach out to you, ask you about your implant training, ask you how you get your beard to look so nice, whatever they want to ask you about, how can they reach out to you and do that?
I'll put my phone number and my Instagram in the chat, so either's fine.
Oh, awesome. Instagram is Parth Patel, right? Is there an underscore in there?
There is an underscore. That's why I was going to type it.
All right, cool. We'll put that in the chat. We'll put that in the Facebook Live. Well, thanks for being you, Parth. I really appreciate it. You inspire a whole generation of dentists, and I can't wait to see you soon.
Thanks for having me.
Awesome, guys. So as you guys can see, we have so many amazing panelists here. I'm going to bring up our next panelist here in a second. So we are going to switch gears and talk to an awesome person. Karen, you're welcome to start your video when you are ready. I'm going to talk to someone who helps dentists find the right fit in their jobs, helps dentists across the country. DCA is a group that has over 250 associates. Do I need to do something for Karen?
I don't know. It says that I can't start my video.
Let me see. Why the default does it? Can you help me, Morgan Ray? Let me see. I think I'm gonna do it here.
I think you guys stopped it for me. So
yeah. Oh, that might be part of it. Yes. Here we go. Hold on. Let me see. It's like try now. How does that go?
Yeah, let's see. No, it's saying you cannot start your video.
Hold on 1 second. Morgan, see if you could help me with this. I'm on panelists. I'm on Karen. Can I ask her to start her video? Sorry, Karen.
Oh, you're fine.
Paul, if
today.
you go to the bottom right, there might be a
Oh,
more.
here we go.
Yeah, see more, and it says I did click start. Oh,
There
there
we
she
go.
is. Perfect, good.
There.
All right, well, I have Karen here, so we are switching gears to a non-dentist, but someone who works with dentists. I'm super excited to talk with you, Karen Riley of DCA. So tell us a little bit about your story and what you do in this daily dentisting world.
Yeah, well, first of all, I just want to say, like, I'm honored to be here up on like this panel. You guys are all amazing, and hearing your
Thanks.
stories. And I honestly, it's you know, to hear practicing dentist and working with these dental students from, you know, year one, year two, and then to see the success.
Thanks.
I'm really honored to be up with all of you. So
We're glad to
yeah,
have you.
so I am over at Dental Care Alliance. I have been in the DSO space for many, many years now. I mean, I started my career out with Dr. Roger Levin
Oh,
in
right.
consulting, and I was his right-hand man. He taught me everything I really know in the dental industry. And I was with him for 6 years. And I mean, everything from, you know, traveling with him to handing him his coffee to all the things that, you know, I just started out with. And then slowly progressed and really kind of found my niche of what I really love to do is working with the dental students and the residents. I work with some of the hygiene students as well. And now I have my own team here at DCA. So I feel very fortunate to have finally gotten to this point of building out the team and really having my vision of how I see it kind
Awesome.
of working well. Yeah. So so it's pretty amazing.
So you work every day to help dentists find the right fit. It may be within your organization, DCA. It may just be them understanding where they're going in life. Before we go more into what was your first job? We have a dishwasher. We have a receptionist. I was a busboy turned into a server. I love being a server. So what was your first job on earth?
I grew up on Long Island, so I worked at a local bakery. So
Oh, cool.
5 a.m., 4:30 a.m. shift, you know, that was the start.
I had some patience breaker. I always say I don't really believe in reincarnation, but if I come back, I want to sell those $10 cupcakes because when you're a dentist,
Oh
people
my
growl at you when you're trying to just help them eat, right? You're trying to rip me off. What is this chewing scam? So
Yeah.
I want to sell $10 cupcakes where no one complains, right? So that's really a great one. I'm sure you learned a lot about customer service. So
Totally.
as we deepen this, and I know you do a lot with university relations, just in case, not in case, explain what DCA is. How many practices are there? How many
Yeah.
associates? I'm in a, you know, like that gym, a no judgment zone, right? People,
Yeah.
I said some dentists say to me, Paul, I hate DSOs. I go, okay, what's a DSO? They go, I have no idea. Other people
Yeah.
say, I'm never working for a private practice dentist. They don't have any patients. I go, how many patients they have? They go, I have no idea. So I'm here to educate. So just if you could just break down for us in the
Yeah,
DCA
perfect.
practices, associates, what does DSO mean? Just so we can help educate our audience.
Yeah, so Dental Care Alliance is definitely a different model than I find some of the larger DSOs out there. So I did work for Pacific Dental Services for many years. So that what I would say is that cookie cutter type DSO, you walk into a practice in Pennsylvania to a practice in Maryland, you're walking into the same type of practice, the same type customer service, the scripting, all the above. All the same technology that's in the office, and that's kind of the same dentistry they're doing. With DCA, we are built by affiliation. So we partner with already existing, highly successful, you know, docs that might be in practice for 20 years. They might be a small group, they might be a single doc. And basically they get to a point in their career where they say, hey, you know, I've grown this practice to this level. I'd like to see it grow even a little bit more before I transition out and make that much more money. And really they're tired of doing, and for anybody that is, you know, running their own practice, you all know it's a lot that goes into running the practice. There's so much to it.
Yeah.
And after doing that for 20 years and the headaches of, you know, the Saturday calls, the Sunday calls that this person's calling out and this person. So not that we do everything. It's just we kind of just in general, any DSO, we take on the management piece of it. So we take on, you know, whether we're helping ordering, we get a better cost at ordering supplies because we're a larger organization. We help, you know, the practices, it all depends on what the doctors actually want us to do. If they need help marketing better in their practices, if they
And
need
I'll
more
interject, Karen.
patient. Yeah,
One of my mentors, someone I respect, Dr. Stephen Rasner, partnered with your group, and I interviewed
yeah,
him. And it's really just because not every practice can be transitioned to a private practice buyer due to its
totally.
size, due to its complexity. I mean, when someone buys a practice traditionally, it's important that they can replicate the services of the previous dentist who's selling it. And then there are some dentists that are just so unique in what they do, both clinically and patient communication wise. And now you educate on this, but you are now on the, I don't want to say the other side, but you're helping fill positions from people out of dental school, people out of residency. Are these positions that are part from growth, sometimes retirement of the dentist that have been purchased, a combination of both? Is that where these openings are coming from in DCA?
Yeah, combination of both. I mean, honestly, we have a really large mentorship and training program that we are looking to bring in these young associates in, and we have a real bunch of senior docs that are encouraging and really want to make sure that they're training up the associates correctly. And making sure that they're providing the mentorship and training that they really need if they choose not to go on to the residency program, if they have some, they don't have the ability to do that and they need to get right into practicing. We have a lot of senior docs that are looking at kind of running their own mentorship and training program just as if like a
Well, I
residency
mean,
program.
I'm one of my mottos at Dental Notches is just be nice, which is, hey, if a dentist posts a picture of a filling and you would have done a crown, don't call him the worst dentist on the planet. That's, just be nice. But just be realistic, and as someone who's a huge fan of residency programs and a multi-year, there's not nearly enough residency programs to fulfill the needs of all the graduates. So
Totally.
now, what would you say to avoid? And if someone has any questions, please put it in the chat. I'm glad to bring them up, or the Q&A. But we want to help people avoid mistakes. And you're talking to people in dental schools and you're talking to people in residencies. So just in an evergreen way, what are some tips you would give them as someone who's hiring dentists consistently to avoid messing up their first job?
Yeah, I kind of liked I mean, everybody's kind of answers kind of combined. I mean, I think staying humble, being willing to learn, and being willing to be trained and kind of mentored. You don't always have to go along with the process of how how a dentist wants to do things, but knowing that you can lean on somebody to be mentored, to be trained, and just be adaptable. I know we get a lot of students that are like very, very specific on like location. They want to be in the specific location. I think flexibility is another big
Yeah.
one. Dr. Patel was saying, he knew he wanted to be out of like a larger city where there was an airport, but like at the same time, being understanding that it might be a little bit more of a location that you might have to drive a little bit, you might
Yeah.
have to commute your first couple of years. I think it's really just keeping an open mind and definitely getting in there and ready to work. It'd be
I-
surprising to know that there's a lot of dental students that get out, right? And you have the letters after your name and they're like, yeah, I only want to work this many days. I only want to work this and not really willing to jump in and be ready and excited to get
And
out
one of the
there.
reasons I'll share as someone who has a higher associates is that you just need to develop patient relationships. And to develop patient relationships, you often have to be there when maybe the other
Huge.
dentist can't see those patients. And it doesn't mean you have to be there on Sundays, but it might be that, see emergencies, see new patients, develop those relationships. And, a story I can share with you is that one of our original Job Connect clients, Dr. Jordan Souders, as a dentist, he was a D4. He said, I'll move anywhere. I want the best job, best mentorship, most opportunity to make a good income. And he moved to the middle of Illinois. He makes over $250,000 a year. He gets to do digital dentistry and place implants because he went to a place that had need for him, brought his child. They might live there forever. And that's his journey, right? Treatment plan your own happiness. But I think geographic flexibility, if it fits into your life, you do this every day. There's some pretty amazing opportunities if you are geographically flexible. Is that accurate?
Absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah. Um,
Yeah.
So I've asked the panelists, Karen, this, and you didn't go to dental school. You're a normal person. You didn't go to dental school. That was normal of you. We went to school to be professionally weird, but you work with us by choice. So maybe, I don't know, you could be just as weird. But what do you wish someone told you sooner? And this could be about professionalism. It could be about making decisions, mentorship. Just, hey, I wish this person crossed paths with me sooner and told me this.
I'm gonna go off of, I think it's Dr. Is it Janetti?
Yes.
I wish that I would give myself some grace,
Yeah.
and give myself an understanding, give myself some patience. Like, I am one of these people that like has to do it and has to do it to the 100% and is always going. And it's like sometimes I just understand like that I'm gonna mess up if I just don't stop, give myself some grace, give myself some patience. So I kind of wish that somebody would have said, you know, you don't have to fall into all the categories or all the, you know, the pockets that everybody else does. And stop trying to achieve what everybody else does.
I love that. Yeah, being kind to yourself is super important. You know, they made a post with it. No one really is keeping score for your contest. We act like they do. And I think that's really awesome advice. If people want to reach out to you, Karen, to learn more about DCA, we have a text code here, text DCA to 215-798-9897. If they wanted to email you or reach out to you directly, what would be the best way for them to do that?
Yeah, email is kriley@dentalcarealliance.com, and I'll put it in the chat.
Well, you are doing the work of the Lord G.V. Black, which is a famous dentist, because you are helping these dental students find a job. And in a JBR way, I have two more panelists, and my last panelist, Dr. Eric. You know, here's the reality. If DSOs didn't hire new dentists, they would be unemployed, because the reality is there are not nearly enough jobs in private practice for all the people graduating. So this is our profession. This is where it's at. However it got here, people could yell, scream, cry, but there's 6,000 grads that need to practice their profession that just spent 4 years, and there's just find the best opportunity for you wherever it is. And I so appreciate you sharing with us tonight.
Thanks so much.
Awesome. So you guys see, we're learning from practice owners, from associates, from people in this space hiring dentists. So I'm so thrilled to welcome Dr. Christian Mullen to the stage. He's been on many shows. I get to compliment him as much as he wants to make him feel uncomfortable. So Dr. Christian, you've been on Job Connect TV shows, you've been on Nacho TV shows, you've been at Boost Camp, you've been at events, but just catch us up on your story. Tell our audience what's your role here in the dentisting world.
Yeah, I 2020 graduate from University of Maryland. Let's see, I went to a one-year AEGD at East Carolina University in Greenville, North Carolina. That was a great experience. I then moved to Virginia Beach with my wife. I'm from Michigan originally. My wife's from Virginia Beach, so we negotiated and we ended up in Virginia Beach.
That's great.
So that's how compromises go.
Yeah.
And then I worked for a DSO for about 14 months before purchasing a practice in September of 2022. And that was a 2-doctor practice. I am only 1 doctor, so that was a lot of exciting rollerblading around in practice for a year. And then I just hired an associate, Dr. Bree Albers. Lifesaver.
Awesome.
Absolutely.
Oh, wait. Do you want to go back to practicing without an associate? Do you want to go back to by yourself?
No, it's
All
horrible.
right.
No.
It's not horrible. It's just, it's a lot for one
pluses and
person to deal with. I want to just unpack a few things for us for your first job. It is important to me to help people make decisions who still have these decisions on their plate, right? So when a dentist has been in practice, Christian, for 40 years, say, I wouldn't do a GPR, I go, I don't really care. You're almost at the end of your career, right? It's not on your decision table anymore. But if someone's making a decision, a D2, a D1, a D3, they heard from Parth, why are you happy you did an AGD, and how does it even help you today? You're running around your office day saying, I'm glad I was at the AGD where this attending said this, or I realized this. It could be clinical, it could be communication, it could just be confidence. Tell us about the value of an AGD for you.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of tangible benefits, but there's also a lot of intangible benefits as well. For me, it was really about expanding my clinical skill set. At that point in time, I really was interested in doing more endo, which I no longer do, which is kind of funny. But I got to use a microscope. I did, I don't know, 60 root canals.
That's awesome.
Most of them through a microscope. And so that was very, very cool. just got more clinically confident in.
I also say you learn how to learn. So I know you might get into digital dentistry, and even though you're not technically doing endo anymore, still some of those same muscles that you developed of systems,
yeah.
learning how to learn, you can
Mhm.
apply to other things. So that's why I want to do Crown Lane. I want to be a super GP, and I didn't turn out that way either. But I'm so glad I went through those processes of doing soft tissue grafting, and
Yep.
I just tell people to explore doing an AGD or GPR. We have Dr. Brandon Labes here in the chat, who I encourage to do one, and he's now working in Missouri. It's really great. So now, what was your first job on earth? I want to make sure I don't forget to ask you that.
I was also a busboy.
Nice, yeah. Busboy, it's good training. It's a good team training. You're the unsung hero of the breakfast shift, right? And it helped me with a survey like that. So tell our audience some avoiding WTF why these fail associateships, whether it's for you or someone that you know. You'd say, go out and don't do this. Everyone's into do this, right? Give us a couple don't do thises, or something that you've seen people do that have caused them some problems in their associate jobs.
I mean, one thing that I think it's kind of talked about, but at the same time, it's not talked about a lot, is if you're a new associate coming in sort of guns blazing, you're amped up, you're excited about, at least that's how I was, about trying to, implement stuff you learn and all the cool stuff and all the technological things. I'm a very tech-oriented dentist, but trying to change too much too quickly to a team that you don't have rapport with can be devastating.
Yeah.
And so, it just kind of sets you up for failure. And so, one thing, Greg Campbell, I took his course, it was a Thriving as an Associate back in the day. And that was a really good starting point for basically, just realizing people work harder for people that they like.
Yeah.
And if you don't establish those relationships on the front end of things, then it's just an uphill battle. And there's not really a way to come out of that unless you're willing to be extremely vulnerable and then change your,
I
whole
love that. I
situation.
mean, Eric said in the chat, guns a-blazing, ready to save the world from all oral disease. And that's just sometimes, it's such a good point. I was just lecturing in Rocky Mountain. I said, you got to be likable and credible. And none of you look credible because you look young and you don't know what you're doing, because you're young and you don't know what you're doing. So really double down on that likability, double down on the relationship parts. And that goes for patients too, right? Yeah, I was actually in my office today, and patient had a question about dental warranty, one of our sponsors, and my associate said, can you help this person? They're asking these questions. So I walked in and, chatted about dental warranty. And I go, you're going to have such a great time here today, getting this crown done with Dr. Alicia. And she said, oh, I love working with Dr. Alicia. And it was such a nice moment for me because, I'm proud of a team that I built, that I don't have to do that crown, but she loves getting that crown done by my associate. And that's not easy to do. And I think it's really key for associates to do that. For your theme, Christian, I just want you to, we just had someone on, Karen, who works with DCA, hundreds of practices. And right now you got one practice, right? Christian's House of Dentistry and Nachos. Share with us the value of practice ownership, the good parts, why you're glad you're a practice owner earlier in your career. Tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah. So, I mean, I would say that in kind of backing up a little bit, I would say financially, back when I was in maybe first or second year of dental school, I didn't really have a ton of knowledge on personal finance or finance in general, really. And so after, racking up a ton of student debt, I kind of had this realization third year. I was like, oh, this is going to be not as good as I thought it was going to be. And so then I dove into this, basically a bunch of personal finance journey, or books, if you will. I read probably 10 or 15 books, took a bunch of courses and stuff like that on personal finance. So I guess coming back to your question, buying an asset, in my opinion, is always going to be a good option, especially in the dental space, especially with the amount of, or the lack of failure rate, with the default rate less than 1%. So, it's scary for sure. But you know, at some point you have to have some confidence in yourself, number one.
Yeah.
Number two, understanding that, you know, dentistry is recession proof. It's a great field to be in. I know a lot of times a lot of the negatives are they're spoken about, but you get to build your own vision and your own
Yeah.
team and your own vision and your own mission, and you know, live out your core values through a team that trusts you and um wants to work hard for you. And that is, to me, that's, I mean, I wouldn't even care if I made less money as an associate. That to me is amazing.
I think you're sharing so many great things, and I think that it's a both world. Dentistry is awesome. It's annoying. It's always exhausting. That's not a both. That's just 100% of the time. And I think that you also, just to share for this audience, I encourage dentists to look for practices that collect between 750 and 1.25 million to buy. What was your practice collecting when you bought it?
Our practice was collecting 1.1,
Yeah.
1.1.
And you've grown that to over 1.6. So it's just to share that it's also about the right practice. That's credit on you, because you buy a $300,000 practice saying I'm going to grow it, and sometimes that never grows. You buy a $2 million practice and you can't replicate those services. Hopefully somebody protects you along the way, but sometimes they don't. And I think that's super key. The sooner question, I mean, you like Parth or new, so you can either tell me what, as we wrap up, what do you wish you did sooner, or what do you think, a dental student should do sooner? So give us some Christian value with that.
I would say, so two things, and they kind of revolve around the same concept. But number one is surrounding myself at least 2 times a year in in-person CE events. Dentistry, as people, well, maybe not residents or D4s. You guys are all surrounded by dentists all day long, but it can be a lonely place, especially in entrepreneurship. And it's a little bit tricky from the standpoint of that. So whenever you actually surround yourself by in-person CE events, it's a good thing. And my second thing would be this year we're actually starting it. We're doing an annual golf trip with me and my dental school buddies, and I wish we
Awesome.
did before. You always said, you want to get together, but we're coming from all parts of the different parts of the country, and so kind of just making sure that you reestablish those.
Put it on the calendar and do it. You're glad you did it. The thing that I'll share as we wrap up is, you consider me to be a friend, right? You can text me whenever you want, right? You can text me Sunday at 10 p.m., but I can text you too, right? And, so I'm Paul Goodman. I say this to people, the Dr. Nacho. That's how I like to be described, like the New York Victor. I'm just, but like, how did you become friends with me? What like complicated system did you use? Because I didn't know you. How did you become friends with me? Do you remember?
Was it at DSS?
Yeah, DSS just walked up and started talking to me.
Yeah.
And
"Hey,
I said,
you're Dr. Nacho."
yeah. And we started talking. I said, of course, I kindly said, you got to come to the Jason Smithson event. You told me I can't do it because my team will get upset. I go, here's how you fix that. You asked them, I solved that for you. And now we're friends. We just walking up and talking to me. And people did that for me, Christian, right? So I have that version of people, the Dr. Bob Levine's, the Dr. Stephen Brown's. So just like Parth, just talk to people. Dr. Brandon Labe came up to me as the D1 and said, I want to work with Dental Nachos. He's literally one of my favorite dentists on the planet, people on the planet. So there's people out there that want to help you, and just go up and talk to them, but you got to get out of your comfort zone a little bit. And magic happens when you truly ABC, always be connecting. So this DSN, they are sponsor of our group. You're part of it. I'm part of it. I'm in this field for 23 years. You're 2 years. We got Jason Tenori. We have Audra Wards, the summer cast meals. Why should someone join this group and be part of it?
I mean, personally, my number one core value in life is continuing to learn, like continuing education, always growing. And DSN is number one. It's a positive place to be. You can ask the most revealing questions, or you can be super vulnerable in the group without feeling like you're going to get spat on. And there's a ton of, I mean, most people don't know this. There are a ton of documents and free CE that I learned a lot of the business knowledge that I have because of Mark Costas and Addison Killeen and the Jason Tenoris of the world. And yeah, I mean, I owe a lot of my business understanding to them. And I'm not saying that I know a lot. I'm just saying that based on where I was at, it's just night and day.
To me, it's the absolute safest place on the internet for dentists to interact. This is someone who
Yeah.
runs a Facebook group, and it's
Mhm.
just, I love my free Facebook group, but I was talking to Mark about it. It's just different. So people
It
want
is.
to, you can join it as an associate dentist. You do have to be an associate dentist practice owner. There are people there that have your back. Well, thanks for having my back, Christian. Truly appreciate it. Go check on your dog, and I hope to see you in Philly soon.
Yeah.
Awesome. So as you learned from Dr. Christian Mullen, so our finale guest is here for a reason, Dr. Eric Roman, someone who I admire and has done so many things in this dental world. He is our perfect finale to wrap this together. We're going to ask him all the same questions, but if you have questions for him in the chat, please ask him. So Dr. Eric Roman, tell us a little bit about your journey to get started. I'm going to ask you about your first job in a second, but give us a journey summary.
Journey, Paul. Wow. My journey started, I only knew one thing as a dentist. Graduated dental school in 2007, and my entire journey was founding, building, growing, and exiting DSOs. And along that journey, I just over about 9 years, I hired and trained over 100 incredible associates, some of the
Awesome.
best performing associates. And so when I got done with that portion of my life, instead of doing it again, I decided I wanted to teach other people how to do it. And so I spent years teaching other DSOs how to take great care of their associates and how to assure the success of their doctors. And then I was due for another little shift and transition. It's like every once in a while, my body it needs to change, right?
Yeah.
And so now I operate a company that is focused on helping us professionals in the dental industry achieve work-life harmony, like lasting enjoyment. So I just try to help people enjoy their dental lives. That's what I do.
I love it. And we're going to, please feel free to ask Eric some questions. We'll have some wrap ups after if anyone's hanging around, but I want to spend some time on this. Let's just be real about it. Dentists aren't as happy as they may seem, right? You said in the chat, loneliness is a problem, burnout's a problem. And I want to just dispel this. Does it matter if you make a lot of money? Does that make you happy? Or if you met some dentists who make 7 figures and are super unhappy?
Paul, would you believe me if I told you that there's actually an inverse correlation, negative? Like I find that as doctors, I have helped people make 9 figures. Like I have coached people that have made extraordinary amounts of money, and they are as or more unhappy than the people making $150,000 a year. So, Paul, money.
What that missing piece? What have you? What is that? I mean, because I think this is shocking to a lot of dental students. I would be to me, and it could be even to me now. So I think someone gave me 8 figures for doing something. No way I could be unhappy. Is this a dentist thing? Is it a people thing? Is it a combination? Is it part of our training? Is it because we don't pay attention to building this muscle, whether it's emotional or mental? Tell us a little bit about that.
It's a human thing, Paul. And actually, it's something I'll touch on maybe in a minute, but we learn only to be validated by the success of what we do as dentists, by the success of our business, by the success of our crown margins, by the success of the number of patients coming in, or the validation of the number of our income on an annual basis. And the truth is, that doesn't mean anything. Like,
Right.
what do we actually do with our lives? How rich are our relationships? Do our kids even know our names? Are we actually getting what we want out of life? And when you only learn to validate by dentistry or by money, you actually learn not to validate by the things that matter most. Hey, how easy is it to get validated inside of a marriage or a relationship? They can actually be really devalidating, right?
Right.
Nobody tells us those tools.
I love you sharing. This is an idea maybe we can work on together. I always thought of it. I want to do a special program called "Help Me, I'm Married to a Dentist. What do I do?" Because I think that it's very difficult to be married to a dentist. I think if your spouse is a non-dentist, they might not understand all the energy that happens. I mean, I was just at a lunch today with my office manager and consultant, and I said, there's a lot of negative energy in a dental office, and taking that home is difficult. So now let's go back to it for a second. I'll get back on track. Your first job. What was your first job prior to being a dentist?
I stocked shoes in the back room of a Foot Locker where they would
Wow.
only occasionally let me out. It was
That's
like cardboard and dust. That was my job.
Well, you learned some. I'm sure you learned some systems when the salesperson brought back 10 boxes that nobody wanted anymore and said, "Hey," or didn't want, and say, "Here, I put these back." So, you graduated dental school. When were you? You were a little younger than me. I'm
07,
2002.
07.
07. Gotcha.
Yeah.
So you've trained 100 associate dentists, right?
Yeah,
And
well more than that now.
yeah, what is some avoiding mess ups? What should they be doing to avoid mess ups? Some D4 is spending time in this chat with us. They're listening to this on demand. They happen to cross by this moment. What should they do to avoid making errors in their first job?
I'd say two things. The first thing is that it's funny how little planning often goes into to us picking our career path as dentists. In other words, what are your expectations for your experience? What do you actually want to accomplish as a clinician? And the answer isn't get faster. That's actually not a legitimate target. Like really getting dialed in to the type of clinician and type of experience that you want to have. And then when you can see that picture, then A, you have to be militant about making sure that the practice you're choosing is going to give a pathway, but B, you got to build a strategy. You aren't
Yeah.
just going to show up and all of a sudden be it. But more than that, Paul, I'd say my number one all-time Eric Roman like coaching point is that the single most important from the day you start your career to the day you end your career, single one thing is case acceptance, is
Yeah.
being extraordinary. And what most of us don't understand is we think we graduate dental school with case acceptance skills. No, you actually have none. You have no idea how to get somebody to actually pay full price for this stuff that we do. And the difference between just 10% better case acceptance over your career is literally millions of dollars. Most
And
people
more
don't realize
happiness,
that.
because you know what's interesting? It was that joke where I was making with Karen. It's kind of demoralizing when people tell you they don't want what you're selling, right? Like I do Job Connect, and in general, people are thrilled to get it. I mean, they give me grief. They're dentists. They can give you grief about anything, right? But in general, people go, "Oh, I want to, hire an associate." If I do something with dental nachos, yes, I have to like kind of annoy them to come to an event, but like they kind of want to be there. But sit with it for a minute and be like, nobody wants what we're selling.
That's right.
But what we sell is transformative. So
Yep.
I am totally with you. I also think that dental school trains us to do case acceptance, like we're talking to other dentists, and not our
Totally.
patients aren't another dentist.
Patient education is actually not the key to case
Right.
acceptance. It is a thing still, but like this is really about psychology and understanding and seeing a human being where they are. Like I wouldn't, if you knocked out my front tooth right now, Paul, and you told me that I get to choose between going with my family to Disney or like getting an implant and a crown, I'd have a hole in my face and I'd be at Disney with my
Yeah.
family. And I've got no lack of dental education, right? It's about my values and what matters to me.
I mean, you're so right. I mean, when I inspire dentists to consider hiring an associate, I say, do you want to unlock more freedom, more free time with your family, fewer hygiene checks? All those are emotional, right? So when I talk to
Right.
someone about doing dentistry, I say, when you go to your granddaughter's recital, your dentures will look good. But when you go to the after party, you're not gonna be able to eat with them unless you have implants. Like, do you want to eat at the after party? I'd want to eat at the after party. And that dental school doesn't talk in those ways. They talk about atrophy and periodontitis. So I think what you've touched on is so key, because associate dentists, they have a tough job, because when you're Parth, right, who was on here before, you're the newest dentist to the practice, seeing the newest patients, and you don't have relations with them. If someone was listening and said, where would you go to learn more case acceptance? A book, a podcast, a CE course. I know you might have 10, but just tell us a couple that you would say, hey, I'd go here to learn case acceptance.
I'd say two things were really pivotal for me. Number one, Bruce Baird and the Productive Dentist
Yeah, it's
Academy.
awesome.
You and I both love them. They're incredible. And then I would say my number two, my like phase 2 mentor on case acceptance was Dr. Paul Homily.
Yeah,
And
he's great.
he was incredible as well. And yet, here's the real thing that matters. That's a great place to start, but it has to be a rhythm. You have to constantly be coming back and measuring and looking and then executing on those skills. That's the difference between the good, the great, and the extraordinary.
I love that. Please tag Bruce Baird and tell us his fans are talking about them and
Yep.
talking about, because what the answers to the test are out there, right? Like To Sell is Human by Daniel Pink. If someone did nothing other than read and listen to that book, they would transform their case acceptance. So what's cool about life is the answers to the test are out there, but you have to spend the time, the energy, and the effort, then of course, build these skills. Now, the sooner question, which I love, right?
Yeah.
You know, I wish I had gotten coaching on numbers sooner. You know, what do you wish someone told you sooner? You paid attention sooner? Could be with family, could be with professionally. You said, hey, if I had done this sooner, I might have more time, more money, more freedom. What's that for Eric Roman?
Paul, this hurts, dude, because I mean, my identity as a human became that I'm a dentist. In other words, that was the only way that I knew to validate who I was in the world. And what I learned too late was that dentistry was just something that I did, but it wasn't who I was. I've spoken to so many dentists that are at a late career, and I asked them, like, if I asked you, who are you, but you can't tell me anything about your career as a dentist, like some of them have actually cried because they don't even know what to say. And so what I'm saying is that create some boundaries between what you do and who you really are.
Yeah.
Who I really was a father and a husband, and I failed at those things early in my career because I was so focused on validating myself through how big a business I built, how many people I hired, all the growth. I focused so much energy there, and I didn't focus on how to build great relationships. I had no friends. I didn't focus on how to take great care of people. I didn't honestly even focus as much. I focused on how to bring a lot of money into my life, but not how to use it to
Right.
be healthy, right? And
I
so,
love that.
you know, I did a lot of damage, and I learned along the way that all those damages that I did, I just repeated patterns that have been in our industry forever and ever. And man, I hope that with things like this, we can give people options to where they can choose not to repeat those patterns that our forefathers and foremothers have done.
I think, I mean, I wish we're going to capture that portion. That should be shown to every D1 dental student, because you know what, Eric, it's easy to forget when you're playing a game, whether it's sometimes it's sports, sometimes it's life, sometimes it's dentistry. It's easy to get caught up in that game. And sometimes flat out, it's necessary. You know, when I tell people, oh, you want to start up a dental practice, right? It's going to be more important than your family for that first year.
That's
So do
right.
you want it to be more important? Because if the startup doesn't work, you can't feed your family. So these things that happen that are normalized inside of dentistry, we need to adjust. I love that share. With your new program, when people reach out to you, Eric,
Yeah.
you share so much value. People can text Roman to 215-798-9897. But if someone's watching right now and they want to reach out to you, can you check in with you for a consult? Can they find out about what you're doing next? Tell us more about that.
Dude, super simple. Dr. EricJRoman.com. DrEricJRoman.com. It's like that little logo right there. And if they want to email me, Eric@DrEricJRoman.com, we can book a call. We can just talk about life. You know, like I enjoy that. That's part of my contribution to what we do, is I just enjoy talking to people and listening and offering unsolicited advice. So that's an easy way to connect with me. Instagram, Dr. Eric J. Roman. I'm everywhere. I'm here.
Awesome. I love it. Well, stand with me. Any panelist and Morgan and Serena, if you want to start your video, we'd love to have you back up on stage with us. I want to ask everybody their one thing. So if Parth is still here or anyone, Lauren's still here, perfect. So what I love about doing these things, Lauren, and my other panelists, don't be shy. Morgan and Serena, if you want to come on with us too. I see Karen still here. I always ask this question before, what did you hear tonight that would help you? What did you learn from another panelist? What was an aha moment for you? So I'll ask you, Lauren, any aha moments or anything like, hey, I didn't think of this before, from another panelist on stage?
Well, I definitely want to stress the case acceptance. I mean, it's crucial. And, you know, as dental students, you have the patients coming in and they go, okay, that's what I need. And then money seems to be the deciding factor, but really it is, you know, learning how to speak with patients. And it's crucial. That's the lifeblood of what's going to make your practice and be able to get your reps in and to get faster, get more efficient, and to feel confident in what you're doing. So
I love that, Lauren.
absolutely.
But I think Parth's going to be upset because people have complimented you on your crown prep taper before, right? They got up from the chair and they said, Dr. Lauren, Schillingberg himself would be thrilled with this crown prep. No, just joking. No one has any idea. One of the things I'll share with people is I believe that it's only food and hair that we can judge, right? because you see the results of your hair and you taste the food. But whether it's dentistry, whether it's accounting, so you better make people feel confident in you. I love that. Parth, how about you? You're on stage with some awesome people. Anything that you can take home and use to help you?
Yeah, I love what Dr. Mullen said about the two things, like prioritizing a trip with your dental school buddies, or I think we sometimes just work, and we forget that relationships and things matter. So taking the time away from the office, I've got a trip planned with my dental school buddies and my co-residency buddies. So super excited.
I love that. And also the people who are here, if you can put in the chat something you're going to take home with you from the audience. I paid all these awesome people bupkis. That's my grandmother's Jewish grandmother word for nothing. So all of you donated your time to share. So if you put in the chat for those of you still watching, what you're going to take home. Karen, how about you?
Oh my God, that's so funny. Yeah, I mean, listen, I think from my perspective of, kind of in the seat that I sit in, I'm just listening to all of you, just really informative to kind of take and absorb everything and kind of bring back as I kind of go out with, our chief clinical officer, Dr. Don Gallo, a lot. And we go out to the universities and we speak a lot to the students. And a lot of times we're speaking on case acceptance and communication and what that means, because all of that wraps in. So that was really awesome, Dr. Roman. Yeah, that's a big key piece to the success of a young dentist, but it takes some time.
I love that. I also want to echo the book I mentioned was To Sell as Human by Daniel Pink was the book I mentioned, if you put in the chat, and also Dr.
Yeah,
Paul
that would be
Homley,
great.
Dr. Bruce Baird. But you see it, Karen, that's not talked about early enough in our journey, and we got to pay attention to that. Morgan, anything you learn more? I always tell my team, Eric, they got to get in the mindset of dentists, right? They got to learn the dental journey. So anything that will help you in your daily life, connecting associates and owners, Morgan?
Well, I mean, like Lauren said, be vulnerable, but also I really liked what Parth was saying about how you need to go to every office, observe the office and see the right fit. Don't just look at the numbers. And I think it's super important because also talking to practice owners all day and job seekers, we always tell the practice owners to have the job seekers observe the practice to make sure that they're also a good fit. So
Yeah,
just
it's great. It's the
both.
questions they ask. You want to have them asking good questions too, practice owners. If you're listening, it's valuable to spend time that's low pressure time. I love that. Morgan, you didn't know everything that went into being a dentist, right? This is a part of our journey. Serena, how about you?
Yeah, I thought it was awesome. Everyone did a great job. I learned a lot. I think personally I took away Dr. Lauren's phrase about the rule of thirds. I think that is important in any aspect of life. So I thought that was great. And then what Karen said about being flexible for job seekers, I think that's super important too to take away.
Awesome. I love that, Serena. Eric, how about you in a takeaway?
Lauren's advice on taking your time on living at your means was so big. That has trapped so many of the associates. It actually became training for us, for our associates. It was do not live at at your potential, live below it for a bit. And that was just huge, because honestly, here's something that we don't want to admit. When we're having financial problems, what we do in operatories changes. It changes, and it is the absolute truth. And it's not cool.
Robert actually said here, and I like this, he said, I took away that if I cry when someone asks who I am besides a dentist, I wouldn't be the first one. And I think that point, Eric, you said is just so key. Whether it's Kyle Stanley, who I've done work with, you're more than a dentist. Somehow, I know it happens to other professions, but this one particularly, I think due to the lack of the mentorship early in your career, the lack of multi-year residencies, the loneliness factor, working by yourself, that it can take over your identity. And I just think everyone should remember that, because we had someone at Boost Camp who was an endodontist who had her hand crushed in a garage. Thankfully, she had disability insurance, but she had being a dentist taken away from her identity in the split second. So you just need to prepare, because anything can happen like that. Well, you guys did an amazing job. Lynn said, we're not just our jobs, we're more than that. So this was just such a special hour and 15 minutes of time with me, with us. I so appreciate all of you. And I hope to see you guys in Philadelphia for cheesesteaks, C, and camaraderie, our 3 C's of Philly. Thanks so much, guys.